Welcome to episode 6 of the Success Agency Podcast. And we're here with serial entrepreneur, host of Western New York Entrepreneur Podcast, David Schaub.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, we're actually in David's studio right now, shooting the Success Agency Podcast, but a little collab work going on right here. So how's it going?
It's going good. It's Tuesday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tuesday morning, a rainy day in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's kind of just dive right in. So have you always been from Buffalo, Western New York area?
Yeah, basically, yeah. So I grew up in a little town called Varysburg, which I'm guessing 95% of the listeners or watchers won't know. And so basically from second grade on, I've been in the Buffalo area.
Okay, cool,
yeah.
cool. Then did you go to college around here? Or?
Yeah, it's actually a funny story. I went to high school at Chetuaga Central.
Okay.
That's where I graduated from there, and I got booted from college with a .86 GPA.
Nice.
And yeah, I've had a, you can dive in there because it's really interesting.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I was arrested 5 times before I was 20, like for minuscule stuff though, like lighting off fireworks in people's homes, running over mailboxes. Really, if I really think about it, it's more of a cry for attention if you think about it.
Yeah, it's just kid stuff.
Yeah, kid stuff. And, but actually the last time I got arrested when I was 20 was I beat up this kid. And his uncle was a Supreme Court judge for over 44 years. So it was actually really, and I think that's kind of hilarious, but I got a record for it. I did 6 months of weekends where you literally drive yourself to jail on Fridays, or the holding center, whatever you want to call it, and then you leave on Sunday. I called it my weekend getaways for 6 months. And so I was in jail on my 21st and my 22nd.
Wow.
And but it's really, in hindsight, it was the best thing ever happened to me because it really knocked me down off my pedestal. And but after that, it really, like I said, it made me grow up. And I started an office for a marketing company when I was, I worked for a marketing company. Then I got promoted to run an office for them at 22, I should say. And then I got rid of that when I was 26. And then I started, and I own a franchise for a publishing company. I do motivational speaking for college students, wrote 2 books, and I do the podcast, as you mentioned. So that's cutting a lot of details out, but that's it.
Yeah, but how'd you get into the marketing job in the first place?
So every young adult has probably heard of the brand called Cutco. Or Cutco knives, maybe you haven't. Yeah, no. But a lot of, about 95% of the workforce is college students between 17 and 25. So that's mostly the recruits. So long story short, I was 20 years old, so I was in that bracket. They sent a little flyer to the house saying, hey, we're hiring part-time sales reps. Okay, sounds great. Yeah. It was for winter break work, actually. So I went there, and then I got hired. And then I just worked my way up. I turned out to be the #1 sales rep that year in the region, and or at least in the office. And literally a year later, they gave me the keys as a 22-year-old to run an office in Jamestown, New York, which is like the butthole of New York. And if you know Cutco, they're very expensive knife sets. They're like $1,000 knife sets, which now that I'm older, I'm like, that's not too bad actually. Yeah. But when I'm 20 years old, I'm like, oh my God, it's $1 million. Might as well be $1 million. But anyways, I just worked my way up and broke a couple records there. Awesome. And yeah, they moved back to Buffalo. So that's it.
So have you been like a natural salesperson like your whole life, or no?
It's so funny. In my book, I talk about that, and like people think when they meet me, I'm like, I must have been like this popular kid in high school. I must have, whatever. No, actually, I didn't have a girlfriend in high school. I didn't get invited to one party in high school. I was like, I don't know. I was the awkward kid that's like, I'm 6'7", for those that can't see I'm sitting. I'm just the awkward, really skinny kid, and But I realized that 20 years old when I got hired as a sales rep, I'm like, you know what? I have a record. I have to do something in my life. Let me just try something new. And I did. And it really, in my life at that point, I just needed a really good mentor. So in that case, the guy who ran that office, Justin Ephus, was like the biggest mentor, one of the biggest influences in my life. And he really kind of took me under his wing because I needed guidance. Yeah. And I really credit to that, like making me who I am today. So I think everybody needs that little that mentor. But anyways, no. To answer your question, no, I was never a salesperson ever.
Yeah. It's funny you see like sales jobs pretty much becoming influences, and people's like, how important do you think sales is now with what you're doing now?
I think everybody should at least try it. It's not for everybody, kind of like Cutco. If you're a 7 to 25-year-old in a Buffalo area, I know the manager personally, Josh, they're a good guy. I just think it's I think everybody should at least try, because it's not for everyone. In fact, it's probably not for most people. But, I think it's a great, for the 20% that it is, to kind of throw out a random number, like you really can find some, because sales is everything. Let me give you an example, because I own a franchise for a publishing company. I have 150 local business clients with me. And a lot of them, let me give you an example for sales that people would never guess. You could be a chiropractor, and you could be the best chiropractor in the world, let alone in Buffalo. But if nobody knows about it, it doesn't matter.
100%.
So marketing, sales, whatever you want to call it, is a huge aspect of any business or being successful. You could be the greatest HR person, but if you can't present yourself in a way in a job interview, it doesn't matter. So it comes down to that we're always selling someone. The question is, what do we like when you're on a date? And if you really like this girl or whatever, you got to say, hey, why should you get a second date with me?
Yeah, Grant Cardone talks about that in Sell or Be Sold a lot.
Does he?
Just pretty much selling your kids on going to bed, selling yourself on a date, and then selling yourself at a job, even if you're not going to be in sales, selling yourself on why you're the right candidate for the position.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So how did you get into you said you owned a publishing company or a franchise of a publishing company at 26. How did that come about?
Well, it's really funny. I fell into it. God works in mysterious ways.
It's funny how I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs kind of just fall into something. It's so important, I feel like, just to get yourself out there and put yourself in situations to fall into things.
Yeah.
Not to interrupt.
No. I totally agree with you. And please interrupt all you want. And but yeah, so at 26 years old, I decided I don't want to do the office, only office for the marketing company anymore. Because really, when I thought about it, I doing it for 4 or 5 years. I really learned a lot from the company. Like I love it. Like I want my kids to work there someday, at least in college. Like it's an amazing company. But you ever kind of sit there and you're like, I'm not growing anymore. I need to do something different. Like I woke up one day, if you told me 24 hours ago I was going to leave the company the day before, I'd be like, you're nuts. I sat down on a Friday or whatever it was, afternoon, and I sat there, I don't want to do this anymore. And if I don't leave now, I'm never going to leave. So I literally sat there and I left. And I had a lease that was good for another year. And somehow I talked the landowner out of getting me out of that lease for a whole office. Like I had a whole office. And it was just, I had 2 receptionists. I gave them 2 weeks pay and said, I'm done. And it was crazy. And I had nothing planned. Now, keep in mind, I don't have a college degree and I have a record. So I can go just get hired somebody. And I had a house. I had a house for a couple of years. I had 2 cars in the driveway. So it's just, people thought I was nuts. They're like, what are you doing? You left a 6-figure a year business and you have nothing planned and you have no degree, nothing to fall back on. Yes, that's what I did. I called it a quarter-life crisis. And it was just so interesting. But long story short, the CEOs of N2 Publishing, which stands for Neighbor Networking, they reached out to me and they said, hey, we were looking to do this in Buffalo. We, not to sound hubris, but I did pretty well at the company. They knew of me through the grapevine. Yep. They reached out to me, and but I gave God a month. I said, God, no, that's not how it should work. But I said, hey, God, I'm giving you a month, and whatever happened, I didn't even put an application or a resume together. So that's how I got started with N2 Publishing, and I've been doing that since I was 26 years old now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So is that like your main focus now? I think you said you're a serial entrepreneur. So what else do you have kind of in the works?
Yeah, so that's where about 80% of my income comes from. So, for those, if you're wondering what N2 does, basically you put on free neighborhood magazines for very affluent private communities in every major city. I just do it for Buffalo, so I kind of own the territory for Buffalo. So, like, if you're from Buffalo or Western New York, you maybe have heard of Spalding Lake. Spalding Green, it's, I don't know, the average home goes probably for $1.3, $1.4 million. I do one for Jim Kelly's neighbor in Orchard Park. We do in downtown, like Nottingham Terrace, Middlesex. All those $1 million homes around Door Park. And basically the residents or the neighbors of that neighborhood write the magazine. It's a 44-page full-color magazine. It's like the Buffalo Spree, but we don't sell it. It's not online. And it's really cool because a lot of businesses want to reach those affluent communities for obvious reasons. If you sell Mercedes-Benz, it might be a good idea to be in there. And if you want to put a $100,000 home theater system in, who can afford that? These people. So that being said, I put on 8 to 9 events a year for these. Like they're ugly sweater Christmas parties. And, they're Kids' Day events, Easter egg hunts. And we do a newsletter every month where they write it themselves, which is why they read it. So at this point, I have 150 local businesses with me. And basically, that kind of runs itself. So I do motivational speaking for college students, and I was starting to become a full-time thing. But getting married in September, I said I don't want to be an absent father or husband, so I kind of took the foot off the pedal there. I've written 2 books, like I said, and I'm working on my 3rd book called "This Isn't as Good as It Gets." because I think it's really huge. Whether you're 18 or 108, this isn't as good as it gets. So like when I usually speak to college students, I always tell them like, hey, if things are going really well for you, that's awesome. But I got good news for you. This isn't as good as it gets. And if things are going really horrible for you right now, I even got better news for you. This isn't as good as it gets, and this is why.
Yeah.
But anyways, I kind of went off on a tangent
No. Yeah, keep going. How did you get into motivational speaking? Were you something you wanted to do? Did people reach out to you to do it?
Yeah, kind of like we mentioned earlier, we just fall into it. Because, like I might have mentioned, I think I did 90% of my workforce when I was in a marketing company was college students. So when you're working with college students every single day, when you're working, I call them PCs, like one-on-one personal consultations, working with them their goals. Hey, I know you have college these 4 days. I have classes these days. Like, when can we work around this schedule? What motivates you? What do you want to get out of school? What do you want to get out of this semester? Where do you see yourself even a month from now? And just working with thousands and thousands of college students, you really learn how they tick, and you really realize their struggles, and you realize a lot of them are just like me, or just like maybe like you, where you see the same struggles are a good idea. So I really realized that. And running meetings every week and motivating them that for 4 or 5 years. It's kind of like that book Outlier from Malcolm Gladwell. Yeah, it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert, right? Well, when you do something 7 days a week for 5 years, I don't care who you are, you're going to be good at it. It just adds up. So when I left that company and I established the publishing company, it kind of ran itself after 2 years. So I said, you know what, I want to take this leap now. So I actually paid to speak at conferences.
Really?
So I would pay a couple $1,000 plus flights and hotel, and I would get an audience of 30 to 60 colleges, and then if they like you, they booked you. And the first time I did it, I went to Nashville, paid a couple $1,000, and I didn't get booked at all. In fact, I sucked. I basically should have got booed off this stage. I was horrible. And then I completely realized what I did wrong, because I had some people help me with it. And then I went to the next conference, got booked by 2 colleges, then I got booked by 5, and just kind of like it just kind of added up, and yeah, so that's how I kind of got into it. And then I realized most speakers needed to write a book, so I just wrote a book. I wrote it in 5 days.
Wow. I know it's so weird, because I'll talk about, like, I'll listen to Joe Rogan or something, or either other authors. They like, usually when they just sit down, their best work comes like so fast because it's all readily available. But if they sit there and try to work on something, it really doesn't flow that well.
Yeah, when you try to make it perfect, I think a good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. And some people are different. They have to have things perfect and lined up, like kind of like their ducks in a row. And I'm not saying that's wrong. If that works for them, that's amazing. But if you're not where you are and that's how you are, maybe we should shift the paradigm a little bit.
No, I agree 100%, because I try to get an early start. I'll try to get up at 6:37 in the morning and then kind of get right to work. But I feel like the best work I do, like when I'm the most creative, is usually 11 at night, midnight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's like I feel like I'm more of like a night person. So now I'm in the point where I'm debating, do I just kind of sleep in until 9, 10 o'clock and then just stay up later at night and crank out work? So it's kind of just the same concept, like a good plan, like... No.
Yeah, I think it's each your own. Each your own. Again, if you are where you want to be in a general sense, not every day is gonna be perfect. Some things are just outside your reach. But that being said, it's each your own. To me, I do my best work when once I'm up and I can take a shower and I'm ready to go. Like I'm up, whether it's 5 in the morning or 10 in the morning. So I do my best work. Because at night my brain is mush. Maybe because I'm answering 40 emails in a day, or you're talking to so many people doing podcasts, as you know. But I guess it's each your own. But back to the book for a second. Like I just wrote, because I think what's tough for most people, at least what was tough for me, is I wanted it to be perfect. And for me, like your rough draft, like just write, like when you write a book, just the hardest part is getting the first draft. So I literally would just spend about 4 or 5 hours in a day when I get up, have my cup of coffee, and I literally would just do 10,000 words. And I would stop till I felt like, what, I have nothing, my brain's mush, or I have nothing else to write today. And I would do that 5-6 days in a row. And then, there was a ton of grammatical errors, a ton of things. And you know what? But after I got done writing it, I looked back and I read it, and I realized, I got to add stuff here, or I forgot this story here. And that's fine, but the first draft was done, which was the hardest. And after that, you're like, oh, sweet, now I just got to add and subtract to it. Then you send it to an editor, which, I got mine in Upwork. I paid them quite a bit. It was a doctorate in English in Ohio. So and then you had like 5 or 10 friends read it, because they're going to catch some things you don't catch. They're going to find different viewpoints. Some people are like, hey, Dave, take this out. You're repeating yourself here too much. and vice versa. I add more here.
So start to finish, how long did it take from the rough draft to like the final copy?
I don't recommend this, but I did it in like a month. And now the reason why I did that is because I was writing my goals. I wrote 5 goals I wanted to get done that year, and I posted it all over the house. I wanted to hit this much financially. I wanted to hit this much. I wanted to do this. I wanted to like kayak. It sounded like a weird, like I wanted to kayak across the French Broad River.
That's cool.
And we did that. Amber and I did it. And one of them was write and finish the book I think it was in 2017. And it was like October, or it was actually November, and Amber, my girlfriend time now, my fiance, she's like, Dave, just so you know, you have 1 more left on the thing. And I'm like, shit, all right. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna do it next week. I'm clearing the calendar, I'm telling my friends, I put myself on don't disturb on my phone. I told, hey guys, I'm not available from 9 to 5 the next 5 days. Don't even bother, I'm not gonna answer, don't even bother reaching out to me. And I locked myself in my room, and
that's awesome.
So that's and then after that, I just kind of hurried it up. Here's the editor. Read this. You got till Friday to read my book. It was only 108 pages. So I called it all killer, no filler. So just, you ever read a book and like halfway through, you're like, I get it?
Yep. No, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Plus, most of the people are going to read it are college students.
Yep.
So they have enough stuff to read in college.
I feel like it's tough because I'll try to like break into a book, and it's just like, if I don't get into it within like the 10 minutes of reading it, I feel like I'll just put it on the shelf and on to the next one. And I feel like that's a lot of people nowadays are like kind of into instant gratification almost. So that's why I think the podcast space is so interesting as opposed to like even ebooks and audiobooks. So I think like the podcast space, when you're getting multiple points of view across. So do you think like almost like the book world will die out soon, or how did people take the book? How did people react to it?
Yeah, so about 90% of my books I sell are actually when I'm done speaking. Because in my opinion, unless you have a big name like Rogan, or you have a big name like, all the Grant Cardone, people usually aren't going to buy a book unless they are either A, really recommended to it, or B, if they know the author, they know the name. Unless they, of course, there's the random things out there catches their eye. So that being said, when people listen to me speak, if they connect with me, they'll buy my book. So if I'm speaking in front of foreign college students, I probably sell about 50 books.
That's pretty good.
So yeah, so I'll have like a college student in the back with a credit card swiper, and they're just swiping through as I'm talking, taking pictures, signing, whatever they want. But that's why literally when I got done writing my book and getting the book, I ordered 2,000 of them.
Oh wow!
So I actually have some boxes downstairs. So hopefully there's no fire going to start. But that, I don't think the book world's ever going to die, because for the simple fact that some people I like a physical book in my hand. So that's me. But I do Kindle because when I'm on a plane, I don't want to carry a book around.
Yeah. No, I'm one for actual books too. I take notes. I have to write into my books because that's how I like retain the information.
And I don't know why I like putting a book on a shelf. It sounds really weird. Maybe it's like a sense of accomplishment or performance. But you're right, because if a phone crashes, like my phone went in Lake Erie last year kayaking, sometimes things don't switch over. They lose, they lose like your contacts, kind of like you might lose your books. So that being said, I like having a physical. Sometimes I will go to them if a college asks me to speak on a specific thing. I'll go back to those books and things I highlighted. So on Kindle, I like going to the book and reading it and seeing what I highlighted personally. So you never know, your highlights could be erased too. But yeah, that's that.
So now, out of all these businesses, what's your favorite to do?
Say it again?
What's your favorite to do? Do you like speaking better? Your publishing company? Like, where do you enjoy yourself the most?
My new thing is I get bored. I'm sure we all do.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lot for a lot of entrepreneurs, because I'll get into something and like be all about it one day and work on it for a week, and then it's like, if it doesn't really like catch. Like I have to really love doing it to stick with something long term
and that's good,
because I've done little things in the past. Like I helped my friend throw like a rap show, and so it was really great. We made a decent amount of money. Then it was just like, I don't love it. It's not something that I could be passionate about, and I could like wake up at 5 a.m. and get right to work.
But I bet you learn how to do a rap show, and I bet you that's gonna you're gonna take little things from that. And
I took some things from it, and I own an Italian American pride company now, so I want to get into more events. So we're actually doing a comedy show in October.
That's cool.
So I'm taking just like the base that I've learned from that, as well as like
for the listeners. When is that?
October 25th Asbury Hall in Delaware.
Cool.
Yeah, Anthony Rodia, he's an up-and-coming comic out of Long Island. And actually, when we first booked it, he had 20,000 followers on Instagram, and now he's up, and this was in June, so now he's up to 31,000, and
That's awesome.
and he's verified now. And
Yeah.
so every day he'll put something on his Instagram, and we sell more tickets.
How does one get verified?
It's tough. You have to go through Instagram's process. Instagram gets to pick and choose, but the easiest way to do it is if you go into your business manager on the app on Instagram and you click verification. You have to submit like a driver's license, or if you're a business, like documentation of your LLC or everything like that, and then it's just a waiting game.
Oh, okay. Okay. That sounds cool. So so you're not the comic, you're just helping him promote it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So you were saying before, you were talking about, so what do I like enjoying the most, you said? Yeah, so I would say my podcast. Right now, kind of like you're enjoying it. How long have you been doing your podcast, by the way?
It's been on and off for like a year now. It's tough when, like, again, like I'm 23 and just trying to hustle and maintain client work, so it's hard to like get a way to do it. But I find trouble making content for myself.
Yeah.
And so I took a page out of Gary Vee's book, and he says, shoot the podcast and then take one clip for Instagram, put it long form on YouTube, take clips for Facebook, Twitter, and all that, and that's the easiest way to make content.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get it, right? So, yeah, for me, like, I have to book my speakers weeks in advance because I get so busy being busy. Just whatever it is, right? Sometimes you're just busy, like, cleaning the house. You spend, like, 8 hours doing that, right? So, you know, life has just been so crazy with, you know, literally we got engaged in November, right? And because I'm just relating to you in a second. So, like, I got a 9-month engagement. So literally November 20th, we got engaged. We were in Florida. And then we came back, we sold my house, then bought a house, remodeled the house. And this is while planning a wedding and paying for the wedding. And, you know, and then we did a housewarming party. We did a Jack and Jill stag, and we're doing our bachelor in August. So every month we had a very major event. And this is while Amber's working started a new job as a teacher. And if you know, if you're a teacher out there, you know it is not the bee's knees when your first year. You're working 70 hours a week and you're not getting paid as much. And I started this podcast. And by the way, I was living with my mom for 2 months because I bought a house, didn't have a house yet because we got outbidded for every house we did. Dude, it was just crazy 9 months.
The Buffalo real estate market.
Yeah, it's just, you know, more buyers than sellers. So literally I'm sitting in there like, you know, at 30 years old, you don't want to live in your mom's house. It's not fun anymore. At least when you know, I had my own house for 7 years and you're engaged. So it just, I totally get it, right? So for me, it's like I got to do things in like spurts. You know, it's like, okay, I know I'm going to be very busy this month. Let me line up my podcast interviews for the next month, and like, hey, how do I do that? So I just kind of did all that. I'm trying to skip details here for the sake of time. And then I would, you know, okay, I got to make this much money to pay for the wedding. How do I do that? I'd set a game plan. Okay, when should I start this? I should start this here. So it's literally in my schedule. If my birthday is not my schedule, I will forget my birthday. So Google Calendar. But anyways, the podcast, it's been really good. I've been doing it since March.
Nice.
So it's been really fun.
And where can everybody see that? It's on. Is it on YouTube? I know it's on iTunes.
Yeah, every major platform, because I use Anchor through it.
Okay. Yep.
So it goes on like Spotify, Overcast, Shudder, iTunes, you name it. It's probably every major iTunes platform there. But yeah, so we usually do about 2 or 3 a week.
Nice.
So so it's really fun, and so it's been really good learning a lot about entrepreneurship and it's really fun. So that being said, though, I just realized a lot of people fall into it as well. But also a lot of them, they just kind of like you said, they're just chasing their passion, and the universe kind of gets out of your way when you do that. But yeah, so what's next for you? Enough about me.
For me, well, I started this Italian American Pride company kind of as a case study for my social media clients. I was like, hey, this is how you grow a Facebook and Instagram page from 0 to whatever. And then I had put a video out there the second week, just putting out content, and it got 100,000 views within a couple days on Facebook. And then I was like, wait, maybe there's something to it. I did a little bit of research. There's only one other big company out there like selling shirts and putting out events. The only problem is that company's got over 1 million followers on Facebook and 200,000 on Instagram. But they're pretty much the only gig in town. So I like to, when I see a little area to compete, I'll jump in there, especially if it's something I'm passionate about. Growing up Italian American.
So why the wooden spoon? Just a really cool name?
Oh yeah. So the wooden spoon, if you grew up Italian, you'll know it was the choice, the disciplinary weapon of choice for your nonna or for your mom.
Yeah.
Usually they're in the kitchen.
I'm not Italian, but that was definitely her weapon of choice.
Yeah, and then when I'm seeing some going to Italian festivals, like we just did Buffalo's, and then we're going to Youngstown, Ohio this weekend, and then in 2 weeks we'll be in Pittsburgh, just selling shirts and other gear. A lot of people relate to it. You don't really have to be Italian, so that's where I think it's a little bit fun, and it's a little bit bigger of a demographic to sell to.
Yeah, so and I totally agree with you. It's so funny. I went to the Italian festival when I was like your age, or maybe younger. I was like 18, 19, 20. I'm not Italian in the slightest bit, but I always bought an Italian shirt. I have no clue. I think my friend Sean, who's wicked Italian, and we always bought a shirt together. I have no idea why we would.
It's just you're at the festival, you're enjoying food, whatnot, maybe a couple drinks. And it's just something
fun to do.
It's like a memory that you have for that weekend.
So what's pretty cool is that you must be so you're traveling.
Yeah, so that's another thing, because I feel like I'm always stuck in Western New York. It's like just gets aggravating after a while. So I've taken some trips recently, visiting my cousin in North Carolina. She's a soccer coach down there. But then I went to Jersey. They were doing a soccer camp in Jersey, and I actually booked to do a podcast with Mike Marino. He's an actor and a comedian out there. And so I connected through him through the Wooden Spoon. And so I shot down to Jersey, had my cousin and my aunt. We're doing a soccer camp there, so I just got away for a week too.
That's cool.
So now I figured, like, screw it, we'll go to a bunch of Italian festivals, we'll travel. That'll be like our little summer thing, and make some money and have some fun.
No, that's awesome, because I think I always have a huge admiration for people that travel, because I think it's so important, because when you travel,
it is so important.
I think because you really get such a, you absorb different cultures, but you realize that life is just much bigger than you. And whether of course United States is beautiful, but like going to Europe and like Haiti and like all these other things, it's just I think it's just so, especially at a young age, I think that's so imperative.
Just like, get different perspectives, different points of view. You meet so many new people, because you're in Buffalo, you're in your hometown. It's like everything's just the same. It's like since you've grown up. So
I'll never understand people that just don't travel. Like, I mean, I'm not saying every week, every single year, but frequently enough where it's once every couple years at least, is making it like a priority to do so. And traveling is not as expensive as people think. Don't get me wrong, you're not going to go very far with $100, but I know people that have spent 5 months in Europe on like $6,000. They lived in hostels, they couch surfed. It's just and
even now there's ways to make money even when you're on vacation, like teaching English classes, doing stuff like that. I know if people check out Tim Ferriss, he travels a lot for super cheap. And then there's a bunch of other people out there, like through Airbnb and everything that you could travel.
Exactly. You could, I could basically put a tent in my truck right now. We can go drive across the country. I'll go shower in a river for all I care. With some organic soap, don't want to hurt the environment.
That's another big thing with millennials and a little bit younger people. They don't care about the big fancy extravagant vacations or like the 5-star dining. They just want to get out there and see the world, pretty much.
And I think that's again, each their own. Some people want to have that that's great. I'll never knock someone for that, but that's just not me.
All right, so we've got to wrap up now because you got some business to attend to. But so the Success Agency is the name of my business. I like to do a little segment like, what's your success secrets? Okay. Just kind of like in a nutshell.
Success secrets. I think number one is having. So for me, there's a chapter in my book called fish bowls, and so for me, it's like kind of like a fish can't outgrow its fish tank. If you put a goldfish in a bowl this big, it's not going to grow very big. But if you put in a huge tank by itself, it's going to grow pretty enormous. That being said, for me, especially when I speak to college students, but this is relevant to anybody. I don't care if you're 100 years old or 50 or 20. For me, it's like the biggest thing is show me your friends, I'll show your future. The biggest thing that really shifted me in my life is when I got rid of a lot of my friends, right around your age, to be honest with you. I moved back from Jamestown back to Buffalo, and I realized all my friends that were doing stupid stuff in high school, I realized they were still doing the same stupid stuff at 23, except actually worse. Big things start small. And a lot of times things happen even subconsciously. We don't even realize it. Kind of like, I'm sure you've heard of a frog is in water and it slowly gets boiled up. It actually won't jump out. That's how most of us live our lives if we're not super intentional. So one of the chapters I'm writing in my new book is called Being Intentional. So my point is that being intentional with your environment, who your friends are, and being intentional with where you're going. So for me is, I don't need to meet you. I just need to know 2 things about you. I just need to know who your top 3 or 4 friends with. Who do you spend the most time with, whether it's 3 or 5 people or 1, and show me your checkbook. And what I mean by that is, I can see what's important to you by just looking at, what you spend your money on. And everybody can sit there and say, well, my family's the most important thing on, but if you look at your checkbook, it might tell me differently, to be honest with you. So that being said, mine would say I love food. So, but that being said, I really think it's important to just be intentional with who you're spending time with, because too many times we just sit there and say, well, I've been friends with that person for 10 years, or I work with this person, but we think that's because of that we should be friends with them. If they're not, if they're not higher than you, or if they're not, I'm not even saying a characteristics of, like, for example, if you want to be an engineer, they don't have to be an engineer. That's not true at all. I'm talking about integrity. I'm talking about characteristics. I'm talking about drive.
Values.
I'm talking about, values. There you go. Or even the questions they ask you. Like, here's a good way, I think, the way to put it. When things aren't going right, what do they tell you? Do they just say, hey, we'll just go grab a drink? Or they actually dive in with you and say, man, how, what's going on? Like, I'm here for you. Versus, oh, don't worry about it, bro. We'll just go get a shot. You know what I mean? And for me, it's like, I want someone to do life with. So for me, I think that's so huge, because here's the thing: you could be a millionaire. And by the way, I work with millionaires because they're my clients, and I do all these events for a lot of affluent people here in Buffalo. And I'm telling you right now, some of them are the most amazing people I've ever met, and some of them are the most miserable people I've ever met. And sometimes they're in between. So I really believe that, if you get to the mountain alone, if you get there without being intentional with your passion, or what do you feel like God has put you on this earth for, you completely missed the boat. You completely missed the boat. Like, I say this kind of crazily, but don't be surprised if 4 years I'm in a third world country living in a hut. People are like, well, that's nuts. Why would you do that? You have a great business here. I don't care. I don't care. Like, whatever I feel like God has for me, like that's where I'm going to go. And I think that's, for me, that's a life worth living. Just like, to me, it's like following the cloud in a way. For example, like, I don't know about you, but at the end of my life, nobody gives a crap what car I drove, what house I lived in, how much money I made. Nobody gives a freaking rip. So for me, it's like, I think it's really exciting not knowing what's going to happen. I think it's really exciting taking ridiculous risks when you feel like you're called to take them. You might hurt some people's feelings along the way, but it's your life. Because, like I said before, I don't know about you, but it's like a movie. It's like the guy wanted the girl, the guy got the girl at the end. It's so boring. We want that. Like, secretly, we want problems. Like, we want that adventure, even though we don't know what's going to happen, even though it's scary when it comes up to it. So I try, and it gets harder when you're older, being 32 now, but for me, I try to really embrace that. Just try to embrace that change. So anyways, maybe that was too much of an answer, but
no, that was awesome. I don't think
so.
Does it get better than that? That was very authentic. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we should pretty much end it there. That was awesome. I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to sit down and talk, and hopefully we'll stay in touch and see what happens. So you could check Dave out on Instagram. What's your handle?
It's my personal handle is dave.schaub, SCHAUB, but the podcast is the WNY Entrepreneur Podcast.
Awesome. Yep, check that out. Wherever you listen to podcasts, follow Dave on Instagram, follow the Western New York Entrepreneur Podcast, and let us know what you guys think. If you guys want to see anybody else, just comment below, and I'll try to get in touch with them. Take care.
Thanks.
Awesome.